How many important decisions in your life has actually been your own? It is an uncomfortable question because most of us would immediately answer, of course, my life is my own. And yet, if we look closely, we often discover invisible voices sitting at the table with us. The voice of a parent or a partner, the voice of society, the voice of expectation, the voice that asks, what will people think? Is this the sensible thing to do? Will anyone approve? And before we know it, years can pass while we are living according to conversation happening inside our heads instead of listening to what is quietly unfolding inside our hearts. Alan Watts once said, "You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago." When I first heard those words, I thought they were about change. But today, I think they are about freedom. The freedom to stop carrying identities that no longer fit. The freedom to stop explaining yourself. And the freedom to stop asking for permission to live your own life. Welcome to Genevieve Grove. I am Genevieve, a writer, philosopher, homesteader here in Tuscany, Italy. A fellow traveler on this journey of living a meaningful life. Today, I want to spend some time with that quote from Alan Watts. You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. At first glance, it sounds simple, does it? Almost playful. A reminder that we can change our minds, try something new, take a different direction. Yet, the longer I have lived, the more I feel that Alan Watts was pointing towards something much deeper. Life itself is movement. The season moves, the weather moves, relationships change, we dream and we move. Yet so many of us spend years holding ourselves inside identities that no longer fit. We continue carrying expectations that belong to another chapter. We remain loyal to old versions of ourselves long after life has quietly invited us into something new. Many people are not trapped by circumstances. They are trapped by an outdated agreement about who they are supposed to be. And sometimes the hardest things is not changing. Sometimes the hardest thing is allowing ourselves to become who we already know we are. I think this is where permission enters the story, because most people believe they are waiting for certainty or the right opportunity, the right timing. But very often they are waiting for something much smaller and much more invisible. They are waiting for permission from family, from their partner, from the society, from their friends and experts. permission from people who may never fully understand them. While they wait, life waits with them. There was a period in my own life when I did not fully understand this. I believe that if I explained myself clearly enough, people would understand. If I express my reasoning carefully enough, people may agree. Or if I found the right words, the right logic, the right explanation, then harmony would naturally follow. What I discovered is that explaining can become a habit, a way of seeking approval, a way of asking someone else to validate what we already know inside ourselves. There come a moment in my life when I found myself standing at a crossroads. A relationship has reached its conclusion. There were opportunities to continue discussing, explaining, negotiating, revisiting every detail. There were opportunities to keep proving my perspectives, defending my choices, and keep trying to be understood. For the very first time, I didn't. I simply accept what was in front of me. I said thank you, and I continue walking my own path. That sounds like a very small thing, but if I looking back, it might have been one of the most important decisions in my life. Because the moment wasn't really about a relationship. Who's wrong, who's right. It wasn't about authority. Who was going to have authority over my life? Who was going to decide what future was right for me? And who was going to determine which dreams deserved to be followed? And who was going to define what success looked like for me? At some point, each of us arrives at this question. Sometimes through a relationship, maybe a career, maybe through family expectation or our spiritual path. Life eventually asks, do you trust your own knowing? Or will you continue placing your life in someone else's hands? For me, that crossroad became the beginning of everything that followed. Not because I suddenly had all the answers. I certainly didn't. Not because I have certainty. No, I didn't have it. Or because I know exactly where I was going. That was just darkness. What's changed was something much simple. I stopped asking for permission. Something remarkable happened when we stop asking for permission. Our energy returns. Creativity and possibility just presents themselves. When we stop spending our lives defending ourselves, and begin spending our life building. We stop trying to convince others and begin creating what feels right and true. Many people imagine freedom as an absence of responsibility, but my experience has been the opposite. Freedom often arrives with more responsibility. Because once you choose yourself, you become responsible for all your choices. You become responsible for the direction, responsible for creating the life you say you want. Yet, there is a deep peace inside that responsibility. A peace that comes from standing on your own ground. I think that is where many people become confused. Choosing yourself does not mean rejecting everyone else. It does not mean becoming isolated or refusing guidance. It means recognizing that guidance and authority are not the same thing. We can receive wisdom from many people. We can learn from teachers. We can listen to those we love and remain open to advice. But the final decision about our lives belongs to us. No one else lives inside our heart. No one wakes up inside our body and walk our own path. The responsibility and the privilege are both ours to hold. Years later, when I look back at that crossroad, I see something I could not see at that time. That relationship, inside that relationship, I was never choosing between two locations or between two plans. I was choosing between two relationships with myself. One version that continued seeking permission, approval from the other person. And the other version stepped forward and began living. And once that happened, life began unfolding in ways I could never have predicted. That is often how these things work. The future rarely appears all at once. Life reveals itself one step at a time, one decision, one act of courage, and one moment of trust. Eventually, we look back and realize that entirely different life emerges from a single moment when we honored what we already knew. Which brings me to another Alan Watts quote. The meaning of life is just to be alive. I love the simplicity of those words. Because being alive is much more than existing. It is much more than following expectations, and more than maintaining an identity that no longer fits. Being alive is participating in your own life, feeling present in your choices, feeling connected to your decision, feeling the quiet recognition that the life you are living belongs to you. I think the goal is not perfection itself. It's not universal approval. It is certainly not becoming someone else's idea of success. I believe the goal is to live in a way that allows you to feel fully present inside your own existence. A way of living that lets you breathe deeper, that allows your heart to recognize itself. A way of living that feels honest. Before we finish today, I would like to leave you with a few questions. Where in your life are you still waiting for permission? Whose approval carries more weight than your own inner knowing? What version of yourself have you already outgrown? Is there a dream keeps returning to your heart, asking to be lived? What would change if you stopped explaining yourself and start trusting? Perhaps the deepest question of all, are you living in a way that allows you to feel fully alive? Thank you for spending this time with me. If this reflection spoke to something in your own journey, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take good care of yourself and keep listening for the quiet voice that already knows the way forward. From my heart to yours, Genevieve.